Wow, MAGA Mike Johnson, Republican Speaker of the House, has just instructed his members they can all go back to their offices. They were waiting on the House floor to begin the votes on the disastrous budget bill, but it does not seem at the moment that they have the votes. There's at least 10 holdouts. Reese Gorman reported that Thomas Massie, MAGA Republican Congress member, enthusiastically has been saying that he has a vote block of 10 Republican members who are no's on the Senate's version of the reconciliation bill. Thomas Massie responded, I don't have a block of anything, but there are probably 10 no votes at the moment, but I don't speak and I don't vouch for them. You see MAGA Mike Johnson right there running back into the speaker's office. He's on the phone with someone. Maybe he's on the phone with Donald Trump right there. The MAGA Republicans can only afford to lose 3 votes. If there are 4 no votes, this disastrous budget bill will fail, and it doesn't seem that they have the votes at this moment. That doesn't mean that this could change in any minute. The MAGA Republicans have been known to say they're going to vote against something. Donald Trump calls them, and then they sell out and kill their own constituents. So here's where we're at. Jake Sherman from Punchbowl News reporting that House Republicans are stuck at the moment. They don't have the votes for the rule right now. The floor has been open for nearly 2 hours as the leadership tries to find their way out of this. And what it means when it says they don't have the votes for the rule, first you have to vote for the rule. It's like a vote to then vote. And then there would be a vote on the disastrous budget bill. If you don't have the votes for the rule, you don't have the votes for the disastrous budget bill. Think about it as having to go over 2 hurdles. First, the rule, and then you clear that, and then you have to be able to pass the disastrous budget. Here are some observations that Jake Sherman and others were making about what was going down on the House floor. House Budget Chair Jody Arrington and Speaker Mike Johnson were in an animated conversation in the front row of the House chamber. That convo was going on for a long time. House votes at that point in time had been open for 90 minutes. Then it lasted more than 2 hours. And the chamber was frozen ahead of the rule vote. Johnson then ran into his office. The House Freedom Caucus, the far right-wing people who said they're not voting for it, they were huddling on the House floor. As we said, the next vote is the rule, which would then bring the bill to the floor for a vote. I talked about those 10 individuals who were holding out. If you've been following the Midas Touch reporting, you knew that we called that out earlier this morning and last night before other media really had been discussing that in earnest. Democratic Congress member Joe Neguse, who has a major role on the Rules Committee, he took to the House floor and he was infuriated. He wants to know, MAGA Mike Johnson, why do you continue to leave these votes open indefinitely for hours when you don't have enough votes? What the hell are you doing, MAGA Mike? Watch this.
Mr. Speaker, my understanding is that Republican leadership has issued a notice to their members that they are not to be, aren't required to be on the floor, essentially an informal adjournment, notwithstanding that this amendment vote is pending. Is it appropriate under the rules of procedure, Jefferson's manual, to keep a vote open while simultaneously declaring to members they're free to leave?
Say what? What the chair would say to the gentleman from Colorado is that the under Clause 9 of Rule 20, the minimum, underlined minimum time for voting is 5 minutes on this vote. This vote remains open. So the minimum time is 5 minutes, and there's not a maximum time, nor to this chair's knowledge is there a requirement that during the vote that the members remain on the floor. As the gentleman from Colorado would surely know, it is customary for members to vote in the middle of a vote series, leave the floor, and then come back for additional votes later. So I hope that clears up any misunderstanding the gentleman from Colorado would have.
Mr. Speaker, it does, and I appreciate the Speaker's response. Is it customary for a vote to go over 1 hour?
It is not unprecedented, though the chair is not a historian.
Democratic Congressmember Riley with a fiery speech from the House floor. Watch this.
We've kept our heads down, we've kept our sleeves rolled up, we've kept our shoulder to the wheel, and all we've asked for is a fair shot and for this place to stop screwing us over. But you can't help yourselves. You got us into terrible trade deals that made Wall Street rich and shipped all of our jobs overseas. You bail out the banks while neglecting rural America. You've rigged the economy so the corporate PACs that are funding your campaigns make huge profits, jacking up costs on folks who can't afford it. And now this bill will kill good blue-collar manufacturing jobs that we need to rebuild the economy in this country. It closes rural hospitals, it defunds healthcare, all to give trillions of dollars in tax cuts to your cronies. Don't tell me you give a shit about the middle class when all you're doing is shitting on the middle class.
Good job. Chair would remind both sides of two things. Please direct your remarks to the chair. That is a House rule, and to avoid vulgar speak. We do have families in the gentleman will not be recognized. Gentlelady from North Carolina. Gentlelady from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for reminding us of the language we should be using in this chamber, and I reserve.
And not so great speeches by the MAGA Republicans. Yikes. This is from MAGA Republican Michael Baumgartner, who was barely able to speak. Let's play this clip.
And I'm inspired in thinking about the big, beautiful bill of not only this president, but two of my favorite former presidents. The first would be President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, who realized, getting the appropriate quote, who realized the negative impacts of high tax rates. Indeed, roughly 60 years ago, President Kennedy warned, the largest single barrier to full employment of our manpower and resources and to a higher rate of economic growth is the...
So then the MAGA Republicans tried to go on TV to support this disastrous budget bill. MAGA Republican Congressmember Jim Jordan says, look, it may not be great, this disastrous budget bill, but it's as good as it gets. So let's just be quiet about it. Whatever, it's as good as it gets. Let's play this clip.
I think we probably got as good a product as we're going to get. And again, I think it's good legislation. The other thing I would point out is politics is like sport. Momentum matters. And right now, all the momentum is on our side. I mean, the president has secured the border. We had this amazing operation in Iran. We have, all the other things that happened in NATO where the countries are now going to ante up 5%. So we're on a roll. And now we're going to stop this legislation, which again, lets families keep more of their money. I think we got to be careful about that. I think it's best if we just pass this and get moving and keep moving on the things we told the voters we were going to do.
Then you had MAGA Republican Congressmember Tom Emmer go on CNBC, and he was asked, so why do we believe you when most people do not believe that any of these metrics will be achieved? We learned that there was some horrible employment numbers this morning. There was supposed to be growth of 100,000 jobs. We lost 33,000 jobs last month. The economy slowing down. Core inflation's up 2.7%. The economy is not doing well. And MAGA Republican Tom Emmer, who once considered himself a moderate, was like, in Donald Trump we trust. Because of Donald, we will get through everything. Donald is a master at debt. This is so humiliating. Let's play this clip.
Why are we currently not getting 2.8% growth today with the assumption if the CBO is at 1.8 and the administration's at 2.8, And part of what we're talking about here is extending the tax cuts that are already in place. And yes, you're going to capture no tax on tips, and maybe that'll drive some of this. But what is going to get you to the 2.8 number?
It's Donald Trump. Donald Trump and this legislation. Keep in mind, we've had 4 years of disaster under Joe Biden. Donald Trump has only had a little less than 6 months to try and fix this thing, and already you've seen enormous changes. In the CBO, by the way, 1.8% growth is what they projected over the next 10 years. This country has never had less than 2% growth in any 10-year period. So be careful of the numbers that these insiders put out, because bottom line is we've seen it all throughout history. When you give Americans more of their hard-earned money, when you give them more freedom to make new things happen, they not only improve their own lives, but the rising tide lifts all boats. And that's what this country's all about. And that's what's going to happen with this legislation.
Are you looking for something simple and delicious to add to your wellness routine? I used to rely on regular honey for my breakfast tea and even salad dressings. But then I found Manacora, and let me tell you, it puts all other honey to shame. Manacora honey is rich, creamy, and the most delicious honey I've ever had. The best part, it's ethically produced by master beekeepers in the remote forests of New Zealand. These bees collect nectar from the Manuka tea tree, which is packed with bioactives, giving Manacora 3 times more antioxidants and prebiotics than your average honey. Each morning, I start my day with a heaped teaspoon of Manacora, letting the creamy texture melt in my mouth and coat my throat. And it's not just a treat, it's packed with powerful nutrients to support my immunity and gut health. And here's something that sets Manacora apart. It contains a special antibacterial compound called MGO, which comes from the Manuka tea tree. Manacora tests every harvest for MGO, and you can see the results yourself through their QR system. It's a honey with superpowers. Whether you're adding it to your food or enjoying it straight off the spoon, it's a game changer. Now it's easier than ever to try Manacora honey. Just head to manacora.com/Midas, that's MEIDAS, to get $25 off the starter kit, which includes an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook. That's manacora.com/Midas for $25 off your starter kit. Start your mornings with Manacora. You'll never go back to ordinary honey.
Here's the moment, by the way. Maria Bartiromo was on Fox, and they had to admit these disastrous employment numbers. While Donald Trump's talking about growth, the economy, folks, is telling us a very different story. Play this clip.
Trump would like to sign this right before the July 4th holiday to celebrate freedom and independence. John, we are 30 minutes away from the opening bell for a Wednesday in a holiday shortened week. Your thoughts?
Well, our big surprise today had to be that ADP report on private sector employment. That was down by 33,000 jobs. The labor market is softening. It's flattening out. And that tells me that companies can go ahead and increase prices in response to higher tariffs, but I don't think that consumers are going to respond positively. They'll pull back on spending. So any increase by inflation because of tariffs will be quite limited. Ultimately, tariffs may do more to increase federal revenues, reduce the federal deficit, than to add to price inflation. And of course, all this adds up to lower than expected interest rates by the end of this year.
Yeah, great point. Markets have turned negative now 30 minutes before the open on the heels of that weaker than expected June ADP report. That's why President Trump keeps talking about growth, Ashley. John, you just mentioned, people will have to raise prices. Not in Mamdani's New York, Ashley. No. Not if the government is running the grocery stores.
Democratic Congress member Jim McGovern took to the floor. Here's what he said. Let's play it.
And an attack on this most basic, effective program that is about food. You can live without a lot of things, but you can't live without food. So, Mr. Speaker, for those Republicans who think that it's okay to give Jeff Bezos a tax cut and at the same time cut food benefits for struggling families, let me say clearly, we don't share the same values. We don't share the same values. Unloading billions of dollars in new costs on states, money they do not have, will force them to cut benefits and throw needy people off of SNAP. It is a rotten thing to do. And I believe there's a special place in hell for people who take food away from veterans, from seniors, from children, from former foster youth, and from hungry families. This is sick. This is disgusting. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. Gentlewoman from North.
Here's what he said again. Let's play it.
So I say to my Republican colleagues, what's wrong with you people? In this bill, you provide a $2 billion tax break for gun silencers, but you cut SNAP benefits for vulnerable families, which, by the way, is on average $2 per person per meal. Jesus Christ, what are you people thinking? I reserve my time.
Here's what they were talking about on Fox to these MAGA Republicans, though, saying, we still believe there's 12 holdouts, 12 no votes. What you going to do about it? Play this clip.
Listen, our senior producer in D.C. says there are 12 no votes. I can't imagine Republicans saying no to the president at this particular time. But what are you going to do about those holdouts? 12 no votes.
Well, Stuart, look, this is not the first time we've been here when we're right up against a deadline on a bill, and we've delivered time and time again here in the House.
And finally, a very powerful message from Congressmember McGovern saying, Republican leadership in the White House are jamming this bill down our throats. What the hell are we doing here? Let's watch it.
Here, this process, an abomination, legislative malpractice. Final text of this bill came out less than 24 hours ago. We met in committee an hour after it was posted. And now we're here considering a rule that only allows for 1 hour of debate. This bill is within the jurisdiction of 12 different committees. 1 hour is ridiculous. And every minute we're finding out new things that were snuck into the bill. A tax cut for whalers, and now we're learning about a gambling tax. Republican leadership and the White House are jamming this bill down our throats. And for what? We are not on a deadline, no looming crisis. We're here because Donald Trump wants a 4th of July party to celebrate this garbage bill. He wants fireworks and flags and cameras, not for this country, but for himself. So he says, close your ears, close your eyes, and vote for this bill. Honestly, sounds more like a cult than a Congress to me. Some Republicans promised their voters no cuts to Medicaid, no new debt. Now they're flipping faster than pancakes at a campaign breakfast. The House passed it, hoping the Senate would kill it. The Senate passed it, hoping the House would grow a spine. Everyone is playing a game of legislative chicken, voting for a bad bill and thinking the other chamber will be the one to fix it. This is nuts. And Trump says, have fun and vote yay. Have fun gutting Medicaid? Vote yay on taking away food from poor families? Are you serious? This bill is catastrophic. It is not policy. It is punishment.
There you have it, folks. A lot going down. We'll keep you posted every step of the way. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Can't get enough Midas? Check out the Midas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MidasPlus.com.